Hey man, let's break down something most guys get completely wrong. What actually happens when you stop feeding her drama? Most men think that if they don't engage, if they don't defend themselves, if they don't match her emotional intensity, they'll lose her. That she'll walk away, think they don't care, or that they're weak. But the truth is the exact opposite. See, when you ignore her drama, not with coldness or spite, but with emotional composure, you're doing something far more powerful than arguing back. You're sending a signal. You're telling her, you don't control my state, I do. And when a woman feels that, when she realizes her emotional spikes can't pull you out of character, that's when she begins to feel your presence in a completely different way. Because drama isn't about logic, it's about emotional control. When a woman lashes out, nags, throws tests, or creates chaos out of nowhere, she's not always conscious of what she's doing. It's not premeditated. It's her way of checking the foundation, testing the structure, feeling out whether you're a man of emotion or a man of centeredness. And when you take that bait, when you raise your voice, justify yourself, or try to explain every detail, she feels one thing: weakness. Not because you lack power, but because you lack emotional discipline. You let her drama pull you into a lower vibration, and once you're there, she knows she's no longer safe in your frame. That's when respect starts to fade. But when you remain calm, when you let her finish her storm, and just watch without flinching, something flips in her mind. She expects a reaction. She's used to men getting defensive, pleading, fighting back. But you didn't budge. You breathed. You stayed slow. You didn't get petty. You didn't mirror her emotional intensity. You just remained. And in that stillness, she feels something rare: containment. She realizes, maybe without even knowing how to say it, that she's dealing with a man who can handle her. Not just her words, but her moods, her fears, her storms. And that containment, that's the foundation of feminine attraction. It's what makes her soften. Most guys fall into two traps. Either they explode, meeting drama with more drama, or they completely shut down, going cold and disappearing emotionally. But ignoring drama isn't about being cold. It's about being unshakable. It's about holding emotional boundaries without ever needing to announce them. You don't yell, you don't explain. You just let your silence say, this energy doesn't belong in my space. And that silence, it starts echoing in her mind. She starts wondering why you're not reacting, starts questioning herself, starts sitting with her own behavior. That's the beginning of self-correction. Drama dies in the presence of maturity. It has no fuel when there's no fire to ignite it. The woman who thrives on emotional spikes, who's used to pulling men out of their frame, will eventually fold when she meets a man who doesn't flinch. It's not that she stops testing, but the tests stop working. And when they stop working, she begins to recalibrate. She starts communicating differently, more calmly, more respectfully, because she now feels that the only way to connect with you is to rise to your level, not emotionally drag you down to hers. Ignoring the drama doesn't push her away. It forces her to face her own reflection. She expects the emotional ping-pong match. She wants the tension, the thrill, the emotional tug-of-war. But when you drop the rope, there's nothing to pull. And in that space, she's forced to look at why she needed the drama in the first place. Is she testing you to feel seen? Is she projecting her own insecurity? Is she trying to validate her worth through your reaction? Now, none of that lands, because you didn't bite, you didn't give her the fix. And in that vacuum, she starts thinking differently. The more you ignore the drama, the more she has to confront the fact that your peace is not negotiable, that no matter how chaotic she becomes, you will not give her the satisfaction of pulling you into emotional dysfunction. And the crazy part, that realization makes her feel safe. At first, she may resist it. She may accuse you of not caring. But over time, her nervous system relaxes, because now she's with a man who can't be manipulated. A man who won't abandon himself to please her. That's the kind of man she can respect. She'll never say it, but the moment you ignore the drama is the moment she feels the most attraction. Not because you punished her, but because you led her. You didn't argue. You didn't punish. You just said, this is the standard. Rise to it, or I'll continue doing me. And when you live by that, when your energy doesn't chase hers, she starts chasing yours. Not to win, but to reconnect. And that reconnection, when it comes from her effort, is worth more than any apology you could have demanded. And here's the real mind bender. Drama is often a cry for masculine leadership. It's emotional noise begging for structure. When you engage with it emotionally, you validate the chaos. But when you ignore it with calm presence, you lead it back into peace. You don't say, "Stop being dramatic." You simply don't react. And over time, she realizes the only way to get closer to you is to come with clarity, softness, and respect. That's not something you taught her with lectures. It's something you taught her with restraint. She starts associating your silence with stability, and that stability becomes addictive. She knows she can throw a storm at you, and you won't fall apart. She knows she can test your boundaries, and you'll hold them without needing to defend them. You become the emotional anchor she didn't even know she needed, and the more you stay still, the more she starts dropping her armor. Not because you forced her to, but because you gave her a reason to. She starts to feel something she's not used to, reverence. Because you didn't respond to her chaos with chaos, you've created a new emotional rhythm that she has to dance to. Her usual cycle of emotional escalation now feels hollow, ineffective, and even awkward. She realizes she's not getting the spike of validation she used to manipulate out of weaker men. Instead, she's sitting in her own storm alone, and you're the calm eye at the center of it. That's the beginning of a deeper transformation, not just in how she sees you, but in how she starts managing herself around you. Because deep down, she doesn't want to lose the man who doesn't flinch. She wants to be worthy of him. The truth is, when you ignore her drama, you train her nervous system. You're teaching her, over time, that intensity doesn't move you. That noise doesn't gain your attention. That only emotional maturity gets access to your energy. And she begins to feel it, slowly at first, then deeply. She feels that her usual ways of controlling the narrative don't work with you. And oddly enough, she doesn't hate that. She respects it. She admires it. Because even though she'll never admit it out loud, she wants to be with a man who leads her out of her chaos, not one who sinks into it. There's something magnetic about a man who chooses peace over proving his point. A man who could engage, who could argue, who could win the battle, but instead chooses to walk away, breathe, and stay focused on what matters. She feels that maturity, she sees that discipline, and it stays with her longer than any clever comeback ever could. Because now, in her mind, you're not just a man, you're a standard. One she compares every other man to, one she wants to reconnect with, not just out of attraction, but out of respect. And here's where it gets powerful. When you no longer engage with drama, you create space for her to change. You're not teaching her a lesson, life is. She now has to sit with her own behavior, not because you made her, but because you removed the distraction of your emotional availability. You stopped matching her noise. You let her feel the echo of her own intensity, and in that echo, she learns, she grows, she recalibrates, because nothing forces growth like being faced with your own emotional mirror, especially when the man holding that mirror doesn't say a word. She may test harder at first, she may escalate, she may throw bigger tantrums, but if you hold firm, if you stay calm, if you continue to choose silence over submission, her mind begins to adjust. Her respect for you increases even if her words don't show it. Her behavior starts to shift. She speaks softer. She expresses with more clarity. She stops trying to win and starts trying to connect, because she's finally realized this isn't a man she can manipulate. This is a man she has to meet. And the key, bro, is not just staying calm. It's believing in your calm, not pretending, not faking indifference, but truly knowing within yourself that you're not here to participate in her storm. You're here to build a life that's rooted in masculine composure. She feels that confidence, not the surface level coolness, but the deep inner stillness, the kind that doesn't need to defend itself, the kind that simply is. And that isness is what makes you irresistible, because now you're not a character in her emotional movie, you're the director of your own. There's a sacred kind of intimacy that grows when drama is no longer part of your relationship dynamic. When communication becomes intentional, when silence isn't punishment, it's leadership. When your calm isn't passive, it's a boundary. That intimacy feels rare, even alien to her at first, but it's also what makes her fall in love in a way she's never experienced. Because now love isn't about passion-fueled chaos, it's about peace, respect, mutual growth. And she knows, If she wants to stay close to you, she has to rise to that level. Over time, ignoring drama doesn't just affect her mind, it reprograms her desire. She no longer wants the emotional highs and lows. She starts craving the grounded, stable, consistent energy you bring. She stops finding value in control and starts finding value in co-regulation. And that desire, the desire to match your stillness, creates a deeper kind of attraction. One that's rooted not in adrenaline, but in admiration. That's how you shift from being a temporary thrill to being the man she never wants to lose. So next time she brings chaos to your table, don't flip it over. Don't explain. Don't match her. Don't even flinch. Just breathe. Let her talk. Let her feel. And then with your calmest tone, let her know that you don't engage with that energy. And walk away if you have to, not to abandon her, but to protect the energy you spent years building. Because the more you ignore the drama, the more you make it irrelevant. And in making it irrelevant, you make your peace the loudest voice in the room. And that, my friend, is how you lead. That's how you reset the dynamic. That's how you rise above the chaos and become a man she looks up to, not just loves. You don't control her, you control you. And in doing so, you become the kind of man she can't help but respect, chase, and eventually follow, not out of fear, but because she feels safe in your silence. And once a woman feels safe in your silence, the drama dies and the real relationship begins.